This meeting is being recorded.
Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Age of Heroes, I am proud to present Rotarian Argonauts with Tom Song. Greetings and welcome, Tom. How are you?
Hi, greetings. Doing okay, thanks.
So I hear you've been very busy in our community.
I have been extremely busy, not just in the community, but also kind of regionally in New York State. And there's a lot I want to talk about. One great piece of information is kind of on a national level. I submitted a proposal to make a presentation at the Americas Conference to End Coercive Control, which is now a virtual conference on May 14th and 15th. And my presentation was selected. And I'm so excited to be able to talk about that. You know, it's a nice credential that gives some, teeth to what I've been saying and some people behind it. So I'm really glad about that.
Can you share a little bit about what the presentation is about?
Sure. The title is Double-Edged Sword, Temporary Restraining Orders and Coercive Control. And basically, a lot of people, if you look on the internet, and there's a lot of language about how the justice system can be used as a sword and not a shield. Basically, the justice system can be used by some people to try to gain an advantage going into a divorce proceeding, or to punish, or to make the other person, go through a difficult time. So this idea of temporary restraining orders, which is a emergent restraint that's granted by the court, the idea is, we talk about it, but how much does it actually happen? Is it possible to make any reforms in the way that we communicate it when somebody gets a temporary restraining order or serve upon them to make it more fair for them? And that is the sword part, and it's a double-edged sword because the purpose of something like that is it's supposed to be a protective measure. Yes. For the person who is seeking a restraint on somebody else because they think that they're harassing them or they committed an act of physical violence against them. We're going to be talking about both of those things. We're going to be talking about both how it can be used as a weapon and both how it can be used as a weapon of protection. So it'll be really exciting.
I worked in the human services for over 3.5 decades during the course of my career, and I saw many times how people used the system to, as you say, to serve purposes that it wasn't intended to serve, and to punish people and to give them a difficult time. So certainly your conference sounds like it's very much needed.
Yeah, and the bigger issue is about coercive control. And I'm giving a presentation through the Tenafly Rotary Club on April 21st, live and also virtually, called Domestic Violence and Coercive Control. And there are states that have recently passed coercive control bills, and basically naming this idea that, trying to threaten someone or take away someone's personal liberties is a form of domestic violence. It's a pattern of behavior and not just one particular act, but that could include isolating that person from their support systems, threatening to take away their children if they go to the police, or threatening them with their immigration status if they were to, file a report against somebody. So these are the type of mechanisms that happen. I kind of call coercive control the white collar crime of domestic violence, because it's so subtle that it's very hard to detect, and the person perpetrating it can often get away with clean hands because they're using the system, they're using law enforcement, they're using the support network around them to kind of do a smear campaign to try to reduce this person's credibility, and all of this stuff happened. So that's the larger issue of coercive control that we'll be talking, and then I'll be doing a little piece on that about how sometimes institutions can be used for that. Yeah.
And what inspired you to start efforts to address this particular issue?
Well, it happened to me, actually. That was one of the reasons why. And then I also attempted to get a temporary restraining order. And I initially said harassment, and then that was denied. And usually temporary restraining orders are given, for a very low bar, which is good cause shown, or you think that you're in immediate danger. But I didn't get one, and I appealed the decision, and I have an appeal on the appeals court. And in my argument, when you go to the appeals court, they will review everything that you said de novo, which means that basically they'll look at the facts and apply the law as the appeals division interprets it. So New Jersey in 2015 passed a bill that added something called criminal coercion as an act of domestic violence. And criminal coercion sounds a lot like coercive control. And there's also been some unpublished cases or unpublished opinions that have talked about harassment as a pattern of behavior. And there's been a judge that actually cited and said, this is coercive control. And there's a lot of case law. It's not something new. It's actually been around for a long time. This idea that domestic violence is really a pattern of trying to control and dominate another person. So it's been really interesting to get the appeals court opinion on the petition that I did, because I realized that it doesn't just impact me, but impacts the entire state. And if we could get a published opinion on it, then it would be binding on all of the lower courts.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's very important that that be done. Again, in the human services, that used to come up a lot. People felt threatened. They tried getting restraining orders, and the restraining orders were denied, or even if they were granted, they really weren't enforced. The person who had the restraining order against them would show up, and then when the police were called, nothing much would happen. So the person felt doubly threatened because they went through this process. The person who the restraining order was put against felt that they were provoked now, and then nothing is being done about the provocation. So yes, that's a very important thing that you're doing, and I'm glad that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. It really takes a keen eye, takes a lot of training, especially if you're, a judge or, law enforcement, to recognize, okay, who is the one that is the aggressor here? Who is the one trying to, do this? It's extremely hard. That's another thing why it's called double-edged sword. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about sharper than any double-edged sword that can pierce soul and spirit, right? So if you think about a soul and spirit and just needing a fine tooth to be able to kind of differentiate between that. And then also just professionally as well, it's not just me personally, but through a referral, I got connected with a person who got served with a restraining order for dating violence in Florida. So in Florida, they have something called dating violence where you get a restraining order. And he couldn't afford a lawyer, but I'd been through the process and I wanted to pass on my knowledge. So he was heading into what's called a permanent restraining order hearing, where he can plead his case, but also the person that's accusing him could also, plead their case of why the temporary restraining order should be made permanent. And this person who had accused him actually brought 25 people along with her to try to, support her and to also kind of corroborate all of the things that she's saying. And one piece of information that I gave him was that you can ask for an adjournment. You can ask to postpone this hearing date. All you got to do is just ask the judge. Sometimes you got to put it in writing and just tell them that you want to seek more legal counsel. You need more time to prepare, all of these things. So a lot of times these restraining orders have a very short window where it goes to the permanent restraining order. And basically, that happens because you're trying to protect the person who it was served upon. But oftentimes what happens is that in this crunch feeling, they might make a hasty decision because it's a compressed time period. So a little piece of information that's good to know is that if you have this upon you and you need a little bit more time to kind of even just get oriented, because it's very disorienting, then you can ask for that. And that's usually to your advantage. Yeah.
What kind of services exist now that address this? Are there organizations that are handling this, or are you spearheading a movement that will address this more effectively?
I don't know of a lot. There are some organizations like the America's Conference to End Coercive Control who are aware of this. There's another one, End Coercive Control USA, that I have connection with. But as far as, when you look into the resources, a lot of the resources are for those who are trying to get restraining orders. There aren't a lot of resources for those who feel like a restraining order was served upon them, but it was done unfairly.
Okay.
As you could imagine, that's, the presumption is that the person asking for it had a good reason to, they wouldn't just make it up. We expect people to act in good faith. And for that reason, there aren't a lot of, resources or protections for people who have this happen to them. So I think that what I'm doing and my organization is doing is, probably at the forefront of this.
And yes, I can see now the double-edged sword. And yes, I've met many people who were in that position as well, where things said that weren't true, but they were said, and sometimes they were said to authorities to, as you said, to punish, to control. So what you're doing is very important.
Yep. And then I guess what happens is that most of them get dismissed voluntarily, and they the parties enter into something called civil restraints. So civil restraints is basically, okay, we're going to have some of the provisions that the criminal restraints, the temporary restraining order granted, but we're going to do it civilly, so that if you break it, then you're not going to go to jail. You'll just take that up with the court or family court and discuss the issue there. So a lot of times these civil restraints can be unconscionable and extremely unfair, because the person facing it just kind of like, oh my gosh, like if I were to go to a hearing and I was to, be found that permanent restraints were in order, that person gets fingerprinted, and they have a lot of other things that could negative consequences that could happen upon them. So the risk is really high to try to just go straight to a hearing. So a lot of people, and a lot of lawyers will suggest trying to settle the matter in exchange for something called civil restraints.
And what is that?
Civil restraints is just a court order that basically says similar things, like you can't contact them, you can't ask anyone else to contact them. It might give them certain reliefs, like usually in a temporary restraining order, the person might have to leave the house. So those things get worked out in a more formal written agreement. And if you violate those things, you don't have to go to jail.
So you are, I know, not only a man with a mission, but a man with a ministry as well. And you mentioned the Bible a little earlier. How does this fit in with your other actions that are motivated spiritually?
Sure. So this, about 20 months ago, I started an organization that was supposed to be just focused on affordable housing. I wanted to roll out a pilot program on a new affordable housing program for moderate income families using Rentals City Walls USA Inc. And I think over the past 20 months, it has really become married, to use a word, is to advocacy for survivors of domestic violence. I think that it is the pilot program is going to first have people who are families who are trying to escape from domestic violence, or who maybe they have escaped, but they need some help getting back on their feet for that 1 year or so. And as far as what I'm doing, I'm able to file appellate briefs on my behalf, but my organization is also starting to file something called an amicus brief. An amicus curiae is called a friend of the court in Latin. And basically it's when a third party who's not a part of the suit says, we have a very public policy, or we have a public interest in giving our opinion to the court that we think the court should hear. So it allows my organization to write and submit briefs, bringing in the laws of California and Hawaii, who recently passed coercive control bills. So we can say, this is what other states are doing. There's actually a piece of legislation on the New Jersey State Assembly that wants to add the definition of coercive control to the domestic violence definition. So it's a really hot topic right now.
This has come up in other shows that are in this series, the Age of Heroes series. A lot of people in their busy lives aren't aware of legislation that's coming up for particular things. So some organizations have sprung up to provide that information. Like, for instance, there's a Humane Voters that protects animal rights.
Mhm.
And one of our council people is involved with that, or was involved with that before they went on the council. I'm not sure at present, but basically I joined that organization, and they send you information on what legislation is being considered, and give you the information where you can express your opinion.
That's good.
And,
Do you get to pick by topic, the topics that you're interested in?
yes, you say what you're interested in. They send you emails periodically, and then they let you know when they're doing a protest. And I participated in several protests against the hunt and so forth. But they have an organization like that, and some other organizations I have encountered in my journey have the same thing. That they'll basically, if you care about something, like right now, I'm becoming very concerned with our water and what's happening with water globally. So I'm looking to see what I can do besides, like say I'm concerned about it. And there are organizations that do that also. They just let you know what legislation's out there, what's being done here locally, what's being done nationally, what's being done globally, what reports come out saying what. So this way, if you don't have the time to sit and research all of this, you get all the information handed to you. And you can basically take action from there. And I know when I have time, I call up my legislators and voice, my concerns or my opinions or whatever about certain legislation. And I know many others should do the same. So is this going to be a component of what you're doing? I guess I'm asking, to make it easy for people to help with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So legiscan.com is a really just thorough database as far as trying to track all of the legislation that's pending and on the floor of across the United States. Were you successful when you called your legislators to get your voice heard? Were you able to speak with someone or get a meeting with somebody?
I would say 8 times out of 10, yes.
Okay. I've put in my emails, to the people who are sponsoring and co-sponsoring this bill, and also some local officials that we both know in our circles to try to do that. I'm also, gonna get to the next Tenafly Democratic Club meeting and talk about it there. I would say that I'm really excited about joining organizations and being a part of groups that are doing this. If you're interested in the Coercive Control, the America's Conference to End Coercive Control, you could Google that, or it's the ACECC.com. Tracks this legislation across the United States. I think Washington State is very close to passing one of these bills. And I remember when I was in grad school, I'm not sure if I told you this in our last interview, but I was getting my master's in public administration. So all of us were kind of in this do-gooder, type of environment at NYU. And I asked a colleague of mine who was a classmate, I said, Erica, do you think that one person can make a difference? And stone cold, she said, no. And there was a dramatic pause. And then she said, but one person working in concert in a team can change the world.
Yes.
And I truly believe that. And that has, continued to help me to recognize that, I do with working within an organization, within a team, there's a lot that we can do on the margins as well. So that's an exciting thing to do. So calling legislators is really an easy thing to do. Another easy thing to do, or it should be relatively easy, is that these opinions that the appeals court puts down, they're publicly available, but they're not published, meaning that they're not binding on everybody, but they're just binding on the parties in which it was issued for. And there is a process where you can write a letter and ask the Committee on Opinions, would you please make these published opinions? And I found a line about 9 cases that all mentioned criminal coercion in the last 5 years. And I thought that it was a very important policy issue. And I wrote a letter and said that I think these should be made public. I got a letter back that said we decline at that time because it's absolutely at their discretion. But I would love to get a volunteer or an intern over the summer to really maybe just 1 or 2 of these opinions and just knock a little bit harder. Maybe we can start a petition and show that there is a lot of public interest in getting these opinions published and binding on lower courts. That way, they're already publicly available, so we can already see the reasoning of the court behind them. So with the appeals division, it's actually a really thing that you could ask. There's nothing wrong with asking for them to make it public, and you can ask more than once. Yeah.
That would be a great thing for an intern to do, give them hands-on experience doing something that they're studying. That's something I did on my journey too. For 16 years, I created student intern volunteer programs in New York City. If it's designed correctly, it makes the student or the intern very marketable, or the volunteer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love mentoring as well. And just with, I guess now like 20 years experience in the workforce, just love being able to, pass on that information and delegate. So, I definitely have a lot of other things going on, but it's almost like a ready-made project, in a box. That's just kind of like, here, I tried this and it failed. So, let me give you what I did, and, why don't you, think about how you want to do it, and here are some things that I think could work, and you go run with it. And I love that kind of project that's ready-made and you can give to someone and supervise them as well.
Is your organization still addressing affordable housing? Because that's becoming a bigger and bigger, that's been popping up all over my life, both on the podcasts and off the podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the moratorium on evictions, that has always just been, on that cusp, ending, a lot of, because of the COVID restrictions, if you haven't been able to pay your rent, landlords have not been able to evict their tenants. But I am worried about a wave of, people, looking for housing, as a result of something like that. So I am definitely focused on that. I have a goal of, trying to fund 2 of these leases by the end of before the start of the school year for fall 2022, and to do 1 long-term lease, maybe about 5 years in this structure where you can buy down the rent by paying the landlord something up front, and then you make that rent affordable on a monthly basis to what that family can afford. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm doing some fundraising in April. And I'm doing it through just all April long, but there's an anchor event at Cycle Bar in Closter. They do spin classes. And I've been going there to, just, work through, just get in better shape and take better self-care, but also to kind of, have a place where I can just unwind and, just kind of experience the challenges that I'm facing in life. So I've, partnered with them. They do something called Cycle Gives. And they basically make their studio and staff available so that you could have a fundraiser. Anybody who wants to participate can join for free. And basically, in exchange, we're asking for a contribution to the charity or the organization that is hosting the event.
And with the housing, still sticking with the same model, with getting families with children of school age, and this way they can get a better education. And
yep,
that's still the model. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So I call it the Bear Fund. Okay. So first, I'm a bear. I'm very bear-like. Secondly, it's my organization, so I could call whatever I want.
Right.
And three, BEAR stands for Better Education and Affordable Rents. So that's the acronym. You know, everything in affordable housing has an acronym, and I thought that would be a really great acronym for, you know, to really just crystallize, you know, what this is about. I would say that the affordable housing is something I really want to focus on in June and July and August going into that, and to really just try to fund these, because it is a new product. We do need to kind of get realtors and tenants kind of used to, you know, this idea of, you know, what that would be like and how the financing would work. And I think that, you know, I want to start at a manageable level. And then try to ramp up to 4 of these before the following school year.
Are there any people who've been rallying to your banner with these initiatives? Because I know you're very verbal and you are very generous with your time and your information. So I'm sure you address very many people, and I know we do move in similar circles and belong to some of the same organizations. Has there been a response to your call?
I missed the first part of the question, just the.
You spend a lot of your time on your mission.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You address a lot of people. Has there been a response to your call? Have volunteers gathered to help you with these initiatives that you're launching?
Yes, so there are some connections that I made at Cycle Bar close there, and that they are helping to help publicize it and bring awareness to this issue. And I would say that there's some other people that from other community organizations that are there. I would say that a lot of the relationships that I form are people who are going through this type of domestic violence. And a lot of times, you know, they're just trying to keep their head above water. And they're trying to just heal, you know, in a lot of ways. And economically, I would say that, you know, they're, you know, trying to rehabilitate their work. They might have been out of the workforce for a while. They might be suffering from PTSD and had to have taken time to work. So as far as the relationships that, you know, this most impacts, there's definitely been some support around that. But I think that, you know, we're really at a place where we really need to get allies, people who aren't in these situations, but can empathize and understand what the people that are going through them are, and to help unite with them. I think that when a group of people who aren't the ones that aren't being marginalized or, you know, being abused speak out for the group that it is, I think their voices speak louder and clearer. So I'm trying to really get some of those voices into this organization.
And what is your plan for continuing to spread the word? I know you take advantage of social media, podcasts. So I'm sure you're always thinking of new and creative ways to reach people with your message.
Yeah, so this is one of them. You know, I'll take this interview and, you know, try to, you know, condense it down. And also just show the full interview as well. I am a member of Toastmasters in Bergen County, which is a public speaking and leadership development club. It's international. So on April 13th, I'm scheduled to give a speech, and I'll be talking about exercise and about how, you know, like, what are some of the reasons, even though we know that it's important, why don't we actually do it? So for me personally, I never exercised before joining this class, but I'm trying to kind of reverse engineer about what are some of the things that make this environment, signing up for a class and being around other people that are also energetic. So I'm going to be talking generally about that, but there's probably about, you know, 12 to 20 people who come out to a meeting. So after I give my little talk on that, it's 5 to 7 minutes where people absolutely have to listen to what you're saying. So I have a captive audience. And then, you know, during the break and afterwards, I'll be handing out, you know, flyers like this. And this is for the April 21st talk that I'm doing on domestic violence and coercive control. And I'll just be talking about just the general fundraising I'm doing in April. And April 23rd is in the actual event. And if you can't sign up to actually get a bike, you can download the playlist, because part of spin class is you ride to the beat of the music. Okay. So sometimes it's like slow and you really turn up the gear and it's like you're going up a hill, and sometimes it's fast and you're going downhill, or it's like a street level. So there's definitely a lot of movement and tempo. It makes it really exciting. So if you can't actually attend in person because you're not local, or you're not able to make that time, I've made it so that I'm going to get the playlist beforehand. So you can all join on April 23rd at 12:30. Download the playlist, and you can walk, run, dance, or sing along with all of us. And then I'm going to do a hybrid, gathering afterwards. It's called Rise Up, Rise Out, because that's one of the things that the teachers say: rise up, rise out, because you're kind of like riding up there. And the whole event, the whole month, is called the Ride to End the Cycle of Abuse. And I'm really excited to talk about that as well. So I'll be, hopefully I'll get every bike filled. We still have time, but that will be about 40 people that I'll be able to speak to in person about this. There definitely needs to be a lot of education around it. And I recently completed my annual report for the company. It's the inaugural annual report. Talks about everything that I've been doing for the entire year of 2021, and outlook for 2022. And there is just so much information in that, and what I'm doing, and all of these things really aim toward that affordable housing goal, and which really the bigger aim of affordable housing is to really find a solution for economic inequality. That's really the bigger picture. Yeah.
I wish you success for that. That's been a problem throughout my life, in the society around me, and a few times in my journey too.
Yeah.
I find myself in difficult circumstances. So that's a reality that many people have to deal with. And I have a ministry too, and I know I've been posting prayer requests from people who are in that particular situation. I have a gentleman, a great gentleman. He's in the 70s, and he was living with his partner. They never got married, but they've been together for 26 years, and his partner died. So all of a sudden he had to leave there, and he's in his 70s, and then his company closed down, the company that he was working for. So he finds himself, with the retirement that he gets from Social Security is not enough to, support him outside of the circumstances that he was in before. So there are a lot of people being affected. That's just one example. So it's a reality. I'm glad that you're addressing it.
Yeah, people on fixed income, as your friend might be. That's exactly the type of person. When you're on a fixed income, you want to know that your housing costs aren't going to keep on increasing by 3 to 5% every year,
Right.
because then you're falling behind every year. So that's exactly the type of stability that I want to try to provide. After this call, I'll send you a copy of the electronic copy of the inaugural report, and you'll be able to see everything that's going on. This is a really exciting time for me. April is kind of fundraising month, and I'm planning on only doing it on April and October for this, because it is hard. It is exhausting. Part of like a fundraising campaign is that if you donate, I'm providing either a hard copy of the annual report, a workout towel, or of the little children's book that I created called Daisy Bears and the Great Door.
How is
Some
that?
of those printed. Huh?
Are you self-publishing? Did you find a publisher, or are you self-publishing that?
I'm self-publishing. I found a really great printing company in New Jersey called Quality Print Services, and they gave me the friends and family discount. I got connected with someone who I met at Cycle Bar. So they're publishing all of that. They're doing all the promotion materials, so that it really feels like this is something that's going on. And actually, today's Saturday, so Starting Monday, I'll probably be hitting and trying to get sponsors from small businesses in the area and ask them to either give a donation or give a matching donation to the people who are already donating as individuals. I think that would be a great way.
People in Tenafly are very generous in that regard, or at least they were before the pandemic, when I was more involved with certain fundraising type of things. So I hope that works out very well for you, and you're very dedicated. I was going to ask you about writing, not only about the children's book, but about you put together a manual for mental health services here in Tenafly. So I know you can write, and I was going to ask you if you're writing. In addition to writing to the courts, are you writing articles published in periodicals or in anthologies to try to get your point out that way?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing a lot of writing to the court. I do want to kind of write some blog posts that will introduce some of the writings that I'm doing, in family court and on the appeals level and on these amicus briefs. I have the title of I have 2 books ahead of this one, but the third book in my mind is about family court. And basically the title of it is Family Court is a Circus and Everyone's a Clown. Because in a way, it is an industry. People are really trying to, almost, they see a couple that's, really in a contentious divorce, and people kind of, see that as an opportunity to, get fees and all of these things to, to kind of, drag that out. But in a way, I've reached the point where it's gotten so ridiculously challenging and difficult that I had to just kind of sit back and laugh and just be like, okay, don't tell me what law school you went to. Tell me what clown college you went to. So that's my take on some of the things that happen.
Title alone should draw in very many people to check out the book. So these activities that you have lined up for the very near future, I don't know if I shared with you, but I was on Facebook for 10 years, and then something happened to my account. So all that I built vanished in a day, and I had to start over. Well, I managed to reclaim my old account.
Nice.
I can reach now the amount of people that I had built up there. There's a network of around 30,000 people, between the various things that I was doing, that I was running. Actually, I'm involved in a lot of things that I'm not running. So I'm in a position to offer you, if you'd like to help spread your word, if you decide to go on Facebook, because I know you had concerns about Facebook, you can gladly post in some of the places where people would be interested in those type of things.
Yep, absolutely. I would really appreciate it. I'm active on Twitter, and I just joined Instagram for the first time, and I'm trying to figure things out, and I'm making pictures and posts to do that, and I'll figure it out. I think it'll be really cool. So 2 other organizations I'm involved in Tenafly. One is Tenafly Stigma Free. And in that, I've already, we had a meeting recently, and one of the committee leaders graciously said that if I send her the little advertisement, they'll have it posted on some of their social media platforms. I would love to, also, I think one of the interesting things is there's been a lot of literature on what happens when children witness domestic violence, but usually that's physical violence. But there isn't really a lot of information about, well, what happens when, people, are around an environment where they experience this type of coercive control, this kind of psychological abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse that they're exposed to or around. So that'd be interesting, because I would like to try to reach a younger audience, because there's a lot of energy around them. They're always having new ideas, and they're also really active on social media and can get the word out. So that would be an interesting thing. And another group I'm part of is the Tenafly Community Garden. And I, stepped up to, be on the committee, and I'm trying to help, kind of publicize some of what they do. And I think that Instagram might actually, I think we have a Facebook account. I haven't really been on it, but I think Instagram would really lend itself to taking pictures of, seeding and weeding and, all of the fruit that goes on it. So there's about 12 to 16 people in that. And they're all probably like me, don't know much about Instagram. So I would love to just have a little course on let's learn Instagram together.
Yeah, I tried those things. I was on LinkedIn for a while, and my profile was in the top 10%. I think back in the day of profiles viewed on LinkedIn. I've been on Indeed. I've been on Gig Masters. I've been on Gig Salad. I've been on Instagram. I've been on Twitter. I really, right now I'm just on Facebook, but I'm playing with the other ones because I learned through social media. Like initially I was on Yahoo groups, and before then Hotmail groups, and then before Facebook there was another one that was pretty big. I don't remember now the name for it, but it was
MySpace was really huge, but yeah.
And all of those came, and there was a lot of activity, a lot of creativity, a lot of work, and then they vanished. So I'm wondering how long Facebook will be the place to be for people in my age group, and I'm looking around to these other things, but I haven't found a new home yet, so that's where I am.
Yep. You have to really enjoy it. I don't choose these platforms just for the sake of trying to advertise and sell. I really want to be a part of the groups and the communities, that I join, and I think that's an important part of it. So yeah, we'll see. And all of these things, I think that there's so many things going on. You just have to kind of focus on one, and then it really helps when you have kind of a point to everything. I'm doing a lot of things. I do career coaching. I do dialectal behavioral therapy skills coaching, and also productivity coaching through this book called Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. But all of these things are like just revenue sources, potential revenue sources, and relationships and networking sources to help, really build onto this affordable housing program that I'm trying to spearhead.
Awesome. In terms of your career coaching, a lot of my background is in workforce development and in psychiatric rehabilitation in the vocational arena. So I'll invite you to that show as well. We had talks at the Kresge Library before the pandemic every month, and we had people come in and we're helping with their resumes and with their job hunts and things like that, but that kind of died out. So I'm looking to start that back up again. We used to have speakers come every month. It was quite an adventure.
Yeah, I would love to just take a step back. You remind me about just going to a couple of libraries and reading a story, for the kids or something like that, or, or bring some animals and give people a chance to play with some dogs or something like that. Like, I think I definitely want to enjoy, the work that I do. I think that in this conversation, I can definitely express the passion that I have for it. But I think that something like the website and the, annual report really shows the dedication, the industriousness, the organization, the discipline behind it. And that can't be communicated in, an hour, half an hour.
No.
That's something that really just takes time to just kind of people to just kind of look into. And, I'm excited to have some resources to be able to communicate that.
Your ministry has a wonderful website. I read your website last time that you were on. That's a wonderfully put together website. And I saw some of your video productions too. They're very well done as well.
Thank you.
So I have no doubt that whatever form your communications will ultimately take shape, they'll be very professionally done, and they'll be very succinct and powerful in their message.
Yeah, I'm trying to put the speeches that I do at Toastmasters online. And recently I started doing some, I guess I call it teaching. I don't really call it preaching or, giving sermons. I like to teach the Bible. So I got connected with this church in Clifton And it's a very, it's a small church, and they're very much into letting anyone, the lay people, exercise their gifts. So I mentioned that, like, I'm pretty good at, kind of studying and explaining and teaching the word. So I will be doing another one April 24th, and the one that I did last month, I'm going to try to put online as well. That's one of the things that I like to do on Twitter as well, is I'm trying to explain these spiritual truths in a way, and it also in a language, in a way that people can understand, anyone can understand. How are things with the Tenafly Rotary and the kind of satellite group that, we're kind of thinking the Argonauts and all of those things? I don't know if there's been any online meetings or stuff like that, but I'd love to kind of help
Not
develop
yet.
that.
Currently, what I'm doing is I created a Facebook group.
Yep.
And several of the Rotarians have been joining the Facebook group, but it's open to all. So we're getting people who aren't local also. And the Rotary has a calendar. And following the calendar, you actually get a bird's eye view at everything that the Rotary is doing globally.
Yep.
So this initial voyage is a calendar to get an understanding of what the Rotary is doing. And the goal at the end of the year, or a year of travel, which would be starting in March, I officially started it, would be to pick a category that we felt passionately for, and then to devote our time and energy towards doing something with a category virtually. So initially we would use the resources of the Rotary, but I've also started listing resources that are non-Rotary, that are primarily here in New Jersey, and primarily here in northern New Jersey and Bergen County, getting it local, but by the same time drawing ever bigger circles so that we can address this on a global scale when we settle down. So right now I'm just building the infrastructure for it and getting people interested. People are responding mostly through likes and an occasional comment, but it's still very small. So once you're on Facebook, I will invite you. At some point, when we reach a certain number of people, I plan on having Zoom meetings and adding those mix, and so that'll start off the meetings. That's basically where I am with that at this time. Thank you for asking, and you'd be welcome there. You're very productive, and you're very you generate a lot of work, so you'd be welcome.
Yeah, I'll put it on my list of things to do to join Facebook, just to join that group. That's very exciting to be a part of that. And it's actually, what you're doing is really great, because I think that a lot of people don't understand what Rotary is, and they have a certain conception, about it, maybe from a long time ago. Or I remember I was speaking with someone, and I invited her to a meeting, and she's like, "Oh, I thought it was all men." But it hasn't been all men for, like, I don't know, 34 years. Yeah, it started out as just businessmen, and they were rotating as far as where they would have, meals. But yeah, I mean, how would you, I don't have a great answer when someone says, "Oh, what does Rotary do? What is Rotary?" Like, do you have like a short elevator pitch that you would explain?
I tell them generally about the four truths, that define what being a Rotary is. I give them a very brief history of how it started, and now it's global and has a seat on the UN, so that basically it has weight. As I study the organization more globally and speak with more people, I'm becoming aware of things like, in some countries, being a Rotarian is a very exclusive, thing. There's a lot of status attached to it. So treating it as something casual as it's done over here would not be right if I'm trying to reach a global audience. So I'm learning about the culture of the Rotary in different places, as well as its history, and that they focus on a number of things, and then I'll list some of the things that they focus on. And basically I describe it as an organization that locally you meet very quirky people who are the movers and shakers of the area, but they're all very unique individuals. And even though they're all different and very eccentric, and I'm very eccentric, in case you haven't noticed, that basically they share a common love for their community, and they have a dedication for doing good whenever and wherever they can. And that the Rotary meetings are generally fun, because you have all these very interesting and very different people in a room together or on a Zoom meeting together. So I post very often the Rotary Four Truths, and if something's going on with the local Rotary, I'll post it and share it. Unfortunately, my schedule at this point doesn't allow me to participate in very many things outside of the things that I'm doing. But I'm a Rotarian in spirit, whether I'm actually attending meetings at the club, and I try to attend the club meetings as often as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things that our local club is being, heavily involved in. One is the Northern Valley Greenway,
Yes.
which has been a plan for, years, and we're just kind of, waiting for the railroad to, kind of make a decision and as far as what they're going to do and trying to get funding. But the idea is amazing, to just take that old railroad, from, Englewood all the way down, to some of those, northern areas, and convert that into a walkway, a bike path, a park. And I think it's something that's just much needed to help bring the community together. And another initiative, it's
I
very.
remember that when it was an idea bounced around in Christina everyone's head. And the old shows from way back then went, oh, wouldn't it be great if, and it's been really interesting to watch that and to have like the history of it on different podcasts, but to watch that come into being, because people don't realize it takes years for ideas to take form. And they take form through conversation, through connection, and through action. They don't happen magically. I remember how long it took for the dog park to come into being. It was conversations until now it's there. And
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the networking at Rotary, the lunches, it happens very organically.
Yes.
You just go and you just chit chat and you talk, and then we do a little bit of business and talking, and these things come up. Like right now, there is a box between the food box between Stop and Shop and TPR that the Rotary and someone actually built that with their hands, and it's collecting donations. And last I hear, it gets like 16 bags of groceries, probably, every few days. So people are really busy, and we're donating that to the Center for Food Action. Another idea that is in Christine Everett's head that's been bouncing around that I'd like to talk about is, there is a number, I think it's a state number called 211, which is kind of a general number for any type of information that you're looking for. And if you were to call in a crisis because you were having a mental health issue, or someone else was having a mental health issue, or because you were looking for support because you were having some suicidal ideation, you have to listen to the prompts, and it's something like number 33. Press number 33 if you want help on this. And what she wants to do is join forces with the stigma-free committees around the state and try to get a live person, so that, the message is, if this is a true emergency, hang up, call 911, okay? If this isn't about life or limb and you're looking for, something that's, in a crisis situation, dial 1 to get in touch with the live person, and then they could direct you to, the resource, or they'll have some training in that. And then number 2 would be all of those other things, like, a tree fell in my yard, and how do I, how do I, fix that, and all of those other, senior services, and all of those other things that come with this 211 number. And I think it's a fantastic idea. It's one of those things that Rotary has the institution and the depth to try to pull together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, so another thing, I'm going to Dominican Republic at the end of May for a Rotary district conference.
Very cool.
Yes, so it's going to be my vacation after a very challenging, 2 years, and I'm going to, attend webinars and network and just relax at the beach and enjoy I've never been to the Dominican Republic, so I think it's
I've
quite
never.
exciting.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So.
And, I looked at the clock. We're almost at the end of our hour.
I know.
and time zoomed by very quickly. And I know that Christine's idea will take form and it will become a reality, hopefully sooner than a few years, because that sounds like a wonderful idea. I know that a lot of people get frustrated with these lines, you know, especially with the automation. It's very difficult to reach a person. A lot of times you wind up getting kicked off because you pressed the wrong thing, or you wind up at a dead end. So it'd be great to have a living person there, or living people, to take these type of emergencies, because I know I get frustrated when I get lost with menus and all of a sudden I'm kicked off, or I wind up in the menu that I started with.
Yeah, I could imagine even just something like, you know, coming full circle to domestic violence. You know, if you're in a situation or you're not sure and you want to, get out, or maybe if you want someone to go with you to the police station or to family court, to, fill out one of these temporary restraining order applications, to get a little bit of what is the process? What do I do? Because I think sometimes, if the your local police station isn't the one that is necessarily the trained to take a complaint of this nature, they may not understand. Well, did they hit you? Is there any kind of sexual assault that happened? And if it doesn't meet those categories, they may not take it as seriously. But it's one of those things that I think that just an idea out there that could be also one of the resources for this 211 number, to kind of assist and give some people some understanding of the process. I don't think a lot of people understand the process of what goes in. Some people think that you only get a restraining order by going to the police, but that's not true. You can go down to any county courthouse during their regular 9 to 5 hours, and just make an application, and you get heard by a judge.
Thank you for that information. How can people tap into all the wonderful things that you're doing?
Yes, I'm going to send you, little JPEGs and links, but www.dryandbarren.com/bride. And that just talks about all the things I'm doing in April. And there's also going to be a link to the May conference, the America's Conference on Coercive Control. And at the event after April 23rd, I actually plan on giving 2 scholarships, no questions asked, for people who want to attend online. And so I'll pay the registration fee, for them if they're interested. For me, I think right now it's kind of like getting the word out there, getting people educated, getting awareness done. I think like you, I spent the last more than 12 months building the infrastructure, having different revenue streams, and now it's about kind of, okay, now that I have the infrastructure and I have all these things in place, now it's time to kind of really make it public and make it more known and get the word out there.
Awesome. I thank you very much for sharing your adventures with us. You're truly an Argonaut of the Rotary, and I plan on having you back every so often so that we can get updates on all these wonderful things that you're doing.
Absolutely, and I like to show the highlights and the lowlights, because I think with every one of those things, you learn lessons, and I don't hide those things that were seemingly low lights. I cross out the low, and then they just become lights that kind of guide our next year as far as what we're doing. So very positive.
Very powerfully said. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Until next time, this is us wishing you joyous journeys and amazing adventures. And you're awesome, Tom.
Thank you so much. So are you. Thank you.
Thank you.